welcome back to Prepping in Progress. I'm Steve, and this is your Wednesday morning prep talk. Today we're going to do something just a wee bit different. I have here my friend Delan Wright, who is a little nervous about being in front of the camera, but don't worry, it's going to be fine. Delan's a blacksmith, and I have a lot of questions. Also, I'm thinking about I don't know if I'd become proficient, but I'd like to at least know a little bit about how to make my own tools and stuff. So let's get into it, shall we? So, brother, in a grid down scenario, tools are still going to need to be made, repaired, plowshares and whatnot. And you were telling me how you do metal work. And I'm not very familiar with blacksmithing. I've been in front of a forge once watching someone. Well, how do you keep it hot? I mean, I've seen people blow on fires, and I've heard of a thing called a bellows, but I'm not sure. If you have no electricity, how do you keep the flame and whatnot?
Okay, well, first question was you want to know about how to keep your forge going. Of course, you want constant airflow, regardless. You do. Best way, if you do not have any electricity, would be use a bellows. Typically, they have dual chambers, and then you can have anywhere up to 6 chambers. Each chamber is different. One holds air in it, and as you're lifting up, it's sucking in air or drawing in air to another chamber, and when you push up on it, it's causing a flap to fold down, keeping that air trapped, pushing it into another chamber, and it's keeping constant airflow always.
So it's not just some kind of bag with 2 pieces of wood and you just up and down.
No,
It's actually a complex instrument.
it is. It can be. The ones that you typically see for like your little fireplace, yeah, it's just a little pump, but that's your single chamber. What it does is, as you're opening, it's actually got a little hole in it to draw in air, and then you push on it or you squeeze it, it causes the air to push out, which in turn, the only other option or the only other place it could come out is the nozzle, which is going towards your forge or toward your fireplace.
Okay. And then that keeps your fuel hot,
Yes.
and you use that to maintain a steady temperature.
Well, temperatures varies, especially you have your summer days, cold days, but typically, in theory, yes, it's supposed to keep temperature right at the same amount. The more airflow you get into it, the hotter it gets. The less airflow, the cooler it gets. So it varies on the person, varies on what you're working with, and mainly just trying to keep a constant airflow is your main focus.
Now, in addition to air, you've mentioned to me a while back several different types of fuel.
Yes.
Is there a difference in what the fuel will do to the fire, and can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Well, you have roughly 3 to 4 different fuels. One would be your coal.
Okay.
Normally get it at a coal mine or someone that you might know who has coal that sells it. Another would be charcoal. You can use charcoal briquettes or use firewood. And with firewood, you actually have to burn it to turn it into charcoal. And that's what you use. And then you also have your gas forge, which is typically run off of propane or other sort of gaseous material. Mainly, it's going to be propane because it's the best burning fuel there is for a forge.
Okay.
And then you also have anthracite, which is harder than coal, but it burns hotter, and it's a little bit more expensive than coal.
Okay. Now let's say that for whatever reason, the economy tanked. There's no way to get coal shipped in. I assume anthracite is probably as rare as coal here in Arkansas.
It is.
How would you keep working?
Well, typically, a lot of people out there use like these tiny little gas forges. They can make them out of coffee cans.
Okay.
Just old tinned coffee cans, and they use a camping stove propane bottle.
Okay. Now, what if we didn't have propane? What other options are there?
The only other option would be to use a charcoal forge and bellows.
Okay. Okay.
And with that, it's best to, if you are a carpenter or you know anybody who can, you do some carpentry, have them make you one. Small one can be anywhere from 2 feet. I've got myself one, and it's 6 foot by 4 foot.
Okay. Pretty cool. Okay, so we've talked about heat and air. Let's talk about metal for a minute.
Okay.
Where can I get metal to work with?
Oh, just metal. You can just get about anywhere. Scrap yards. That would be your biggest gold mine, would be scrap yards. If you happen to have old junk cars, there's plenty of metal that can actually be used for forging, to make tools, weapons, anything of that nature, especially for your prepping needs. Just all you need to do is just look around. Metal detectors, you have them, use them.
Okay. You brought a couple of toys to show us. Why don't you take us through? I'm curious. Okay, I'll admit it, guys. You brought a knife to show us, and I want to see it. So let's see the knife. Show me the knife.
Okay. First off, this is my skinning knife. Very simple. Nothing fancy. Walnut and coriander.
Coriander. Wow.
Or coriander, as a lot of people call it. What it is just fake granite top. It's plastic, very durable, and of course the steel that I used on this is actually off of a 100-year-old horse-drawn buggy spring. So this knife is well over 100 years old as far as the metal goes. It is probably it is the best steel to use. It has no crap in it. Some of these newer springs off of cars have mixed alloys. This is almost 100% pure high carbon steel that you can get. And I've had it for a year. Never had to sharpen it. If you want to, go ahead. Now, of course, everything's not going to be completely sharp, but it's sharp enough to do what you need to do.
Yeah, I can shave with it.
Okay. But, I mean, typically what you do is you're going to make a knife. You want to make a knife that's durable for what its intended purpose is. Don't abuse it, that sort of thing, because then you have to turn around, either make a new one or simply just make another one. That would be my thing, or sharpen it.
Okay.
So,
But when you're sharpening it, you're actually shaving off parts of the knife.
yes, when you take a file to a knife, you're actually taking off what's called a burr. It just simply takes it off so that way you can start building that edge back.
And a burr is like when it's run against something, it's dull, and the metal has actually folded back over the knife.
Yes, that's an imperfection on a blade, especially would be a burr, a nick, even a crack. You have a crack in your knife, it's nearly impossible to get rid of. That knife is practically useless.
Okay, now a knife like that, how long did it take you to make it?
Knife like that probably take me a couple hours, just to form the knife itself. Then of course the handle, making sure that I've got the materials for the handle to do it with. It could take anywhere from maybe a day at the most, or a couple days.
Okay. Now, for some of our viewers who do homesteading,
Mm-hmm.
you can make nails as well.
Oh yes, yes.
Hammerheads.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, you sure can.
What other tools around the homestead could be made?
You can actually make a pair of pliers. Just simple pair of pliers, to twist something, turn something. You make nails, like I said, to put up a piece of board, roofing, make hammers, and actually take an axle off of a car and cut it down into smaller sizes and actually make a hammerhead, and then use it for whatever you need to use.
Okay, so prepping teams and mag groups, let's just all get together. We're going to need a blacksmith on our team so that we can take junk cars when the event happens, and we'll just keep building our properties and expanding because we'll have the building supplies and the supply maker right here. You brought us another toy or tool or...
Yes, it's actually a tool. Just of course like the knife, it's a tool. But this is a very unique tool. Believe it or not, it's actually called a Johnny Pick. Johnny Pick, of course, is an older term, but it's actually a candle holder. What you see here is, of course, this is the spout where you'd stick your candle in. And then, of course, this drawn out piece is actually a nail. This whole piece is actually a nail. You could put it in a beam or a tree and actually tap it into a tree, and it would be your candlestick, your light source.
Okay.
Another thing is this hook not only acts as a hook, but it also acts as a pulling device to be able to pull it out of a tree.
That's awesome.
If you had it all depends on the curvature of the hook, but you can actually set this in something and it holds it at a 45-degree angle. And what that causes is that your light source is coming out here. The wax is dripping off of it instead of clogging up this hole.
That makes perfect sense.
So you have pretty much a tool for a tool. It's a tool to hold a light source.
Okay. Now, what did you make this one out of? What's the metal from?
This is actually made out of flat stock steel. Flat stock is typically your 1/4 inch by 1 inch steel. It's 1/4 inch thick, 1 inch wide. A lot of people call it square stock. But all you need to do is just draw it out, flare one in, roll it, you have this part, and of course on this end you actually cut it, and then you fold it back and then loop it, form the hook. And that's pretty much it on that. Of course, how I cut it, that's another thing. Hot cutters. It's a tool that will definitely come in handy, especially for making any tool that you would need.
Okay, now how many hours would it take to make that?
This honestly took me. It all depends on your heat source. That's a lot to deal with. Depends on how hot your forge is, how constant your airflow is. If you have constant airflow, constant heat, this can be done in 30 minutes or less. This one right here only took me 45 minutes to make.
Okay. Well, guys, I'm going to let him off the hook. We were going to go a little bit longer, but we're going to let you in on a few things. There are going to be more videos with Delan. He has promised, once his new shop is fully up and running and ready to burn me on my hands, to start teaching me the basics and fundamentals. So we've given you just a brief overview of some of the things required to do blacksmithing and shown you a couple of the tools that can be made and discuss some more. Hopefully soon you're going to see me pretending to know what I'm doing and attempting not to burn myself. So until then,
It'll happen.
I'm Steve. Thanks for watching Prep Talk, and you have a great week, and we'll see you on Saturday.
See ya.